everyone, Once Bitten here. So we go to Game 4 of Battlecry 2017, and my Beast Herds are matched up against another Beast Herds army. And I had actually seen this list prior, and prior to the tournament, and I like it a lot, actually. So very interested to see how this pans out. One advantage I have playing playing against Beast Herds, is I really know the army. You're probably not going to surprise me with anything, which can't be said normally, because I get surprised all the time playing other armies. So anyway, this is the kind of deployment where you have to alternate back and forth. You can't be within 18 inches of another player, blah, 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 another unit. Um, yeah, so looks like that. On the far right, both of us have ambushing Wildhorns, and both of us decide not to ambush them. So he's got 10 Wildhorns on the far right, then his Centaurs and his Mongrels. Then holding up his middle, he's got his Minotaurs, and then his Wildhorn bunker unit. And then, let's see, Razortusk's in front of him, his characters behind him. So the one on the right is his BSB on a raiding chariot. One on the left is his general on a Razortusk Chariot. Now, one thing I really like about his deployment is his characters are so far back that it's going to be tough for them to combo charge with units. They're more protected, but I think my tendency would be to space out the units a little bit more and put them maybe 1 inch, not in line with everybody else, maybe 1 inch behind or something like that. But regardless, it's not my game to play. There are 2 Gortachs, another unit of 10 Wildhorns, and another Razortusk Redirector. Starting on the far left, I've got my dogs, a Gortach. Behind him, I've got my 20 Wildhorns with throwing weapons. What's funny is I actually wanted all my throwing weapons to go against his Minotaurs, and we were rotating back and forth, and by the time he put his Minotaurs down, I had already had to put mine down, or I otherwise didn't have place to put them. So these guys are kind of just wasted over here. I've got a Razortusk Chariot, then my Minotaurs, and I've got my bunker behind them. And I wish I could tell you what I was thinking there. I honestly don't remember what I was thinking. Anyway, another Razortusk, another Gortach, then my dogs, and more Wildhorns. So, yeah, the Wildhorns over here kind of want to shoot at those Minotaurs, but they're so far away it may really not be possible. So he's playing his Centaurs sober. He vanguarded with them. And he wins the turn to go first, and he does this. So on the far right, he doesn't really advance much with a small unit of Wildhorns. He does throw his chaff out early, and this is something I'm paying more and more attention to. I think it's a mistake. I think I have too many units left in my army that can deal with those redirectors, and he's just almost given them to me. I might have to pay a price and give up some higher points in some situations, but for the most part, I kind of like it when people give me their chaff early. Another thing I would think about in this list, I don't remember the scenario objectives for this, and it could be that the Wildhorn units are important. If they're not, and I'm thinking there was something about them that was important for the scenarios, but if they aren't, I would have those guys up as redirectors too. Because in this game, both of us, we have the Minotaurs and 2 Gortachs, and we're identical in our builds. The only difference is his Minotaurs have the War Banner, and mine have the Swift Stride Banner. Another difference is mine are surrounded by Razortusk Chariots giving +1 charge, and he has one Razortusk behind his units, and it's not affecting too many things. Anyway, both of us are concerned, like, how do we deal with the Minotaurs? And yeah, well, we'll see about that. So, the bottom of turn 1. If you look on the far right, I throw dogs and a Razortusk Chariot into the pig just to get rid of it. My plan is just to reform afterwards, and if he charges me with something that I don't like the angle of the pursuit or overrun, then I'm just going to flee with the Razortusk and hope that I pass my panic on my general's unit if he goes through him, and hope that I rally him. But for the most part, I'm not worried about it. In the middle, I take my other Razortusk and charge that pig, and on the far left, I take my dogs and charge the flank of a pig. That one, I'm not sure I'm going to win, but then again, I'm not sure I have to win it right now. So, close-ups, I love that, because this is actually the picture of that the diorama on my chariot base actually makes sense, them diving into combat. There's the middle. Here's the far left. Now, I charged these guys with a Gortach, And I want to say that I needed a 10 to get there. He passed his panic test, and then my thinking was that if I failed it, I wasn't in a bad position, so I just didn't care. Why not? And if I did do it, um, well, let's go see real quick. If I did hit him, I would overrun and probably get into his mongrels, or I could probably scoop past his lines and just kind of be behind him and really causing a problem on the next turn. So anyway, he elected to flee. He lost one guy fleeing through the house. And otherwise, they're right there. After combat, yeah, we just killed that pig through impact hits. This one I think I killed through impact hits. And if I didn't, he just didn't do any wounds back. This one was kind of funny. He didn't do any wounds to me. I think I have the gnarled hide totem up, so I'm -1 to hit, and I'm distracting. So I have a charge, a flank, and I did 2 wounds to this thing. Or maybe I did 1. I don't remember. Some people count wounds remaining. And if so, maybe I did 1 wound to him. Either way, I won by kind of a lot. And I was almost certain I was going to break him, and he stuck. So I just reformed my dogs wide just so I would chaff him up more. So now if he charges the flank, he's farther away from my lines than if I hadn't reformed. All right, so we go to top of, I assume, 3. No, top of 2. Top of 2. So far left, he elects not to charge with his Gortach. He takes his small Wildhorns into the flank of my dogs. And then otherwise, he decides not to charge me. And this is where I was thinking that, in retrospect, that putting his chaff there turn 1 was a mistake, because if you're not going to countercharge, then you'd really literally just gave me your chaff. Now, if you like the position that put me in and you want to countercharge with it, because his Minotaurs could charge my Razortusk, I would flee. But if you thought you would hit him and overrun into my Minotaurs, that might make sense. But as it is, I think he lost the chaff game right there. There's that. If you look at the top middle, the Centaurs didn't rally. He moves up a little bit with his Wildhorns. That's just a losing combat for him on the right, because I've got 20 to his 10. And then over here, he kills 3 dogs, pursues, and is unable to catch them, which I thought was kind of funny, but overall it's like that. And we go to the bottom of turn 2. Dogs rally on the left. But in big important news, look at the middle. My Minotaurs and both Razortusk Chariots made a charge into his Minotaur unit. And as far as I'm concerned, that's game over. I mean, there's no way I'm going to lose that. I'm going to do 4 Strength 6 impact hits and 2d6 Strength 5 impact hits. And then it's my magic phase, and just to make sure, I throw up the initiative totem so that I swing first, and I don't think I'm going to take a wound. And that's huge. His Minotaurs are gone. I'm just in a really good position on the right. On the left, I'm not in a horrible position. His Gortachs are kind of hanging out with not a lot to do. We go to combat, and all goes as it predictably would. I overran with everything. The Razortusk on the left overran into his Battle Standard Bearer. The Minotaurs did not roll high enough to get there, so they have a failed charge and just sitting where you see them. And the other Razortusk, I think, actually didn't overrun. Or maybe it did, who knows. Anyway, it is where you see it. Meanwhile, his mongrels were sitting right there, and they were out of General's leadership. They failed their panic and ran. And we go to the top of turn 3. And my opponent, very justifiably, is a little bit in desperation mode. He charges down the hill with his bunker unit, and they've got the Banner of the Wild Herd. So when he hits this first turn, he'll be Strength 4, probably rerolling to hit. He has Crown of Horns, so definitely rerolling to hit. And he's just going to do quite a few wounds to me. Ultimately, I'm not sure it matters, though, because my guys are going to be stubborn. And I don't know. I mean, my only concern would be, can I win the grind? Because he has just a lot more bodies. But after next turn, when he's only Strength 3, and I'll be Toughness 4 with a 5-up armor, and I've got fighty characters in there, I'm just not really that worried about it. So there's the action shot. On the top left, he took his Gortach, And I'm dancing my Gortach around the left, and so he just puts him right in front of me, basically saying you can't charge anything except me. And I mean, if I get the charge, I have a slight advantage because I have D3 impact hits. But I'm just not sure I'm willing to risk it because I don't need to risk it. I don't need that Gortach, and you never know what could happen. I could fail Primal Instinct and do maybe just 2 or 3 wounds to him. He could roll a couple sixes and kill my guy, and that would be no bueno. Here on the right, both of his units rally. After combat, he does a fair number of wounds to me. I do some back. I assume he won, and I pass my stubborn, and then he reforms to get more attacks in. Meanwhile, up top, I don't remember how many wounds I did to him. He has a die there, and the die cannot be accurate because the Raging Chariot only has 4 wounds. So if he's counting wounds up or down, either way, it can't be 4. Anyway, I charged in. I did some wounds. I won. He didn't do any to me, which was kind of funny. I say kind of funny, but this guy's is a defensive build. Matter of fact, I bet you I only did 1 wound to him, and he has 3 wounds remaining. Anyway, I won combat, and he broke. And remember that I didn't charge on my turn. I overran on my turn. We fought it in his turn. So on my next turn, I can just charge and push him off the board. So very, very bad news for my opponent's BSB there. We go to bottom of turn 3. My Minotaurs on the hill, they just do a reform. On the left, if you look at the top left, my Gortach just pivots and walks around his Gortach. I'm like, I don't need to fight you. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to sit back here and be ready to countercharge something. Plus, his general's in the middle of the table. That's kind of a lot of points there, and I kind of like surrounding him. So I've got a Gortach at my 11 o'clock. I've got a Gortach at my 3 o'clock. I've got the Minotaurs staring down his general. I'm not sure his general can go anywhere. That's not going to just be a world of hurt for him. I get his BSB there. My Razortusk that was on the right charges mongrels. He fled, and I caught him. Or I charged in combat and won. I don't remember, whatever it was. And then the Centaurs fail their panic and then run away again. Those guys did not show up to fight. After combat, this was bloody again, but it was much more bloody for my opponent. And I got him down. I elected not to pursue because I didn't want to give that Gortach a charge into the flank of this unit. So I just reformed to make it a longer charge for the Gortach to make it, and if he does make it, I can move my general over and hope that my general can make some 4 board saves and contribute to killing that guy before he just wipes out my entire unit. Meanwhile, the unit broke, ran through his general, and the general failed his 9 panic test. At that point, the game's almost funny at this point. Just like, yeah, I go figure. So we go to the bottom of 3. Or, yeah, we're still at bottom of 3. It just looks like that. We go to the top of 4. His general rallies on the hill. His Wildhorns continue to flee. His Gortach on the bottom left. Gortach and the small unit of Wildhorns charge my unit of Wildhorns. It looks like that, and they predictably win, but they don't catch him. His Wildhorns unit has 1 guy left, which is kind of funny. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, my next turn I could charge the rear of his Gortach. But again, I'm kind of thinking that I don't need to. I'm not sure I want to risk it because I just don't need it. I think it's going to be an overwhelming victory regardless. So on my turn, I decide not to charge him. I do bring both my other Gortach. I think he took his Gortach that was still alive and just hit him. He just moved him out because he wasn't going to get a one-on-one with anything. My Minotaurs charged his general. His general fled and rolled a 3. And my Minotaurs caught him and reformed, which was just, again, it's just kind of getting ridiculous. Here on the far right, we're just moving up, shooting at each other. Again, I've got twice as many shots as he does, so I'm going to get that. If you look at my Razortusk on the top left, his Centaurs are gone. That guy, on my next turn, if I charge these guys, I'm going to beat them, and if they flee, my Razortusk Chariot can charge them off the board, so I've got those. But I shoot at them, and they fail their panic and run anyway. And at this point, we have 2 turns left to go, but it's kind of, my opponent just said, he basically has 2 Gortach left. And and he has a Razortusk here at the bottom middle. And that's all he has. and he's just running away trying to conserve points at this point. So we're just like, he can get away. I can't chase him. I have nothing to shoot him with. Let's just call it there. And it just doesn't matter. I have all the scenario objectives, whatever they were, and I have all my points. I mean, I've got all my characters. I've got my Longhorns, my Minotaurs, and both Gortachs. That's where the majority of my points are. So any points he got off me were relatively minor. And even then, he just has very, very little, and I have almost his whole army. So overwhelming victory, 20-0 for my Beastlords. And so it's been a weird tournament. I've got 2 huge wins, 1 huge loss, and then a small win. And so I'm kind of yo-yoing back and forth, but it launched me back up to, I believe, table 3 for the tournament. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching the video. I truly hope you enjoyed it. As you know, YouTube has a variety of functions you can use to interact with videos such as this. You can like or comment on the video, you can favorite it, you can share it, and of course you can subscribe to the channel. And I encourage you to do any or all of those things as a way of interacting between viewer and producer. As always, I appreciate your patronage on the channel and wish you all the best.